Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Eastern Lariat, your show for news, notes, reviews, and opinions on the world of Japanese pro wrestling here on Cagematch.net. I am your host, Strigga. And hello and welcome to a new episode of the Eastern Lariat podcast, your show for news, notes, reviews, and opinions on the world of Japanese pro wrestling here on Cagematch.net. My name is Strigga, and I am, as always, for a long, long time now, as always, joined by Dylan. And Dylan, this is going to be a landmark show, not only because this is episode 300 of the Eastern Lariat, but also because we're talking about two landmark Joshi shows here.
Man, there are so many memories associated with this show. 300 episodes of the Eastern Lariat, like I would have to say pretty unquestionably the longest running English language Japanese wrestling podcast by a long distance, I would say. But as always, I got to give it up to the fans. Who knows where we would be without you guys listening all the time and coming to us, messaging me, and especially recently with everything going on with Ken. He sends his regards to everybody, by the way. He recently passed through the chemotherapy stage of things and is entering radiation therapy. But he has taken to everything very good, actually. So it's been very positive news. Yeah. He appreciates all the kind thoughts and words. But, like I said, there's been so many eras of the show, like through these 9+ years that we've been at it. And I've just been very happy with all of them. I wouldn't trade any of them for anything.
No.
And we could really,
we could really go back and look at where we were when we started this in 2016. Completely different landscape in professional wrestling, and a completely different approach to the fandom that we too had back in the day. And I feel like throughout the years, throughout us discussing things, we've grown closer together when it comes to our wrestling taste without really giving up to be controversial on some topics.
No, and I think that's another reason why we've been able to last. I think it's kind of easy for the grifters of the world to come and go. But that really, you make a great point. 2016 was a way different world in the Japanese, pro wrestling scene, and just the world in general, obviously. But that was really a golden age for a lot of people when we were coming up and starting. And,
and I guess that was the drive behind even getting this show on MLW in the first place, right? Because there suddenly was an increasing demand for people talking about Japanese pro wrestling, because it was still such a niche thing that on the bigger platforms there really weren't any shows discussing that. There were on Figure 4 Weekly and on Wrestling Observer there was one show with a big audio nightmare, of course. But other than that, I think Voice of Wrestling just started up, and then we came in. Yeah. They had their run. I mean, they were around for a couple of years at that point, but they cover everything. They're not just a Japanese wrestling show. That's right.
They do talk about other stuff. Like you said, Observer has theirs. Adam is somebody I respected back then for sure. And besides that, like I said, a lot of people have come and gone, but I always am happy to see new shows pop up and stuff on that end, and I've appeared on pretty much all of them, I would say. as well. We have to admit that
you're a true nomad when it comes to that.
Well, and that's something I take pride in, is that I've never really turned anybody down. Like, I've never told anybody no or felt like I was bigger or anything like that. I never wanted to ever have that. I wanted to help and make friends and help this thing grow, because I remember, like I said, and you obviously know as well, even more than me. You were around longer than I have. I remember when it was the niche, where the idea. I'm going to shout out somebody, and I'm going way back in his archive because this guy's done so much big stuff that I never dreamed he would with the Masked Man and all of that. But I remember listening to a show on the old Blog Talk Radio with somebody who became a friend of mine, Phil Schneider, who's like super respected in Japanese wrestling. And, you know, I was a poster on DVD-R and you know, PWO and all of that, all of those super smart places, pretty much. But he had a show on Blog Talk where he talked about, you know, all of the wrestling going on in the world. And I was like, whoa, like, you know, 2009, Dylan, his mind was blown by the most basic stuff that everyone else would think. Me saying it sounds like the dumbest stuff ever. But at the time, I thought this was amazing. And it was just him. Like, it was just Phil just talking to himself pretty much. But I listened to every show. And from there, you know, things were still, and obviously people like Alan 4L was very influential around that time as well. You know, and I give props to all of those guys that even came before us. You know, our run that we've been on, no doubt that they deserve a ton of props, and they kept things going. And I remember that small era. So like you said, they bounce in that golden age for the Western fans, maybe not in the grand scheme, but for our audience specifically, that era meant so much to them. And still to this day, there's tons of people that say, I got into Japanese wrestling through Okada and Tanahashi.
Right.
And I've seen things go and the ebbs and flows of it. There, you know, obviously the pandemic kind of, who knows where we would be if that had never happened. You know,
I mean, I was just going to say that because the pandemic ended a lot of fandoms too.
You're accurate.
In lots of fandoms, people turned away from their original fandom during the pandemic and found something else, found something new, or even just went to completely different branches. And for lots of people in our circles, that people that we knew as fans back then, for lots of these, this same thing applies because lots of people went away.
That's 100% accurate. There's a ton of people, you know, especially the early going of the show. I was a lot more active on Twitter and social media and stuff.
Me too.
I would talk to people all the time about Japanese wrestling and whether it was New Japan. And also back then, you have to remember, we started at a really great point in terms of, yes, there was New Japan World, but otherwise, you know, things were more easily accessible online through the things like the Real Hero archives. Rest in peace, Jamal Hepburn, my boy forever. On that end. But that stuff was easy to get for everybody. You would be passing matches a lot around on Twitter, and these Japanese wrestling companies didn't care. Like, they didn't know what the hell was going on. You know, like, pretty much. And then eventually everyone realized, like, oh crap, there is an audience for this. And they monetized that, which is like certainly their right to do. But at the start of things, there were guys that would watch every Big Japan show that happened and would be like prolific followers of your All Japans. It was super easy. That's how I really do think that's a big reason why Kento, he really kind of overshadows a lot of the All Japan modern guys, because Kento's big blow up was when everybody could watch it for free, pretty much. I mean, I don't know if it was legal or not, how it happened.
Well,
but it happened. Long story short, that's not happening anymore. Like, you have to go through the effort to sign up, which is a small thing in some ways, but to some people it's not. Like, to some people this is all like just something they want to have fun with and be loose with. And I mean, there are a lot of people that hated my guts, that wished I was dead, and they're not around anymore. So I guess we take some, we win. You know, we win some and we lose some on that end. But a lot of people have come and gone for sure. But through the show, I definitely think, especially post-pandemic, I would say, because that did like flip everything on its head a little bit. And like you said, now is like I was saying, now is a way different than it was 9 years ago. But I really do think that the show itself and through these 300 episodes, we're a really good place to be. Like, if you're a Japanese wrestling fan, I think we've really cultivated that to where, every episode of the Eastern Lariat, it's not going to be talking about the same stuff over and over. Like, we are the show that, and we're still really the only one that does that. I mean, there are some shows that do great in their niches for sure. There's a ton of great, like, Joshi podcasts and stuff. We're going to talk about some Joshi on today's show, like Stardom Cast, and Scott Edwards has a million different shows that he does, and they're all great, and I love them a lot. I've shouted out Emerald Flow Show a million times for their Noah and All Japan stuff. Jesse Show, Jumping Knee Pod's amazing. I've been on there a ton of times. But all of those shows are kind of formulating their own niche. The Lariat is the place where it's really like the news hub of Japanese pro wrestling for English speaking fans, I feel like, to where if you want to know what's going on, like in the real grand scheme of things, you can always come here. And it may not be what you expect. It may not be New Japan every week.
Hey, no. If I had the time to watch the Rikyu Pro show from the weekend or the Kyushu Pro show from the weekend, I guess we would talk about that one.
And we just talked about the Grappling Detective show. We did a whole segment on that.
Talked about Michi Pro.
Yeah, Michinoku Pro. I didn't hear anybody talking about that besides us. That stuff. And like I said, we'll talk about another show of the year candidate here. But I waxed poetic on that show and said it was among the best of the year. And that's something we've always had from all 9 years, where we would talk about smaller companies and things like that. We talked about Heat Up not that long ago. That you can't get smaller.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, you can get smaller than Heat Up. You could watch, like, we could talk about the Sportiva.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Sportiva is there. Yeah,
Wednesday Curry Pro Wrestling, Dylan, next time around.
You can get. I mean, if you go way back, I mentioned on the other show we did a whole show reviewing all the Big Mouth Loud shows, like all the way back then. It's one of my favorite shows, actually. That one, and I think the Best of the Decade show one that we did was really great. That was good. Yeah, like Best of the Decade show was really good because that was very exhaustive. And I thought we did a great job covering like the 2010s in that as well. That definitely two of the best ones, I would say. But I'm always a big fan of the specialized shows in general. Like, you could listen to that stuff now and it'll be just as cool and just as relevant as it was 5, 6, 7 years ago when we did it. Because a lot of our show is news based, obviously, with a lot of stuff. So, like, stuff now, I mean, with tournaments, it's a little different because you can kind of go back and check stuff like that. And especially with the Patreon and stuff, when I do all of those shows, like, they're there forever. You can check back a year from now. But a show like this, it will be interesting depending on how, like, things go for the future for these companies, for sure. I remember one of my favorite shows we did was the Big Stardom show a couple of years ago with Julie and Tom, which was their biggest show before the one we're going to talk about.
Yes.
Still among our highest rated YouTube videos, that episode for the YouTube shows. And we know how much I love the YouTube viewers and the commenters there for sure. But for the most part, we are more of a news-based shows. But I love those kind of shows that you said as well. The Big Mouth Loud shows and the Best of the Decade is a great, great show as well. I love some of the draft shows we've done as well, where again, they were just fun. Like, there was no real deeper meaning to those. They were just kind of fun. And while at the same time having a secret hidden meaning of, I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking about 50 different people, like 50 of the top wrestlers. That kind of gives you a good scene or a good look at the scene currently as well. So I love those shows for that. But I love the regular shows as well. And I'm really happy that you're back on, I will say, because a lot of crazy stuff. Like, it's crazy how we talked about it. Definitely the start was a golden age. People fell off during the pandemic. We've had ebbs and flows since. But if you're looking at this very moment in time, and I'm not saying this to be over dramatic at all, I think we're at a very pivotal point in Japanese pro wrestling. Like, with the shows we're going to talk about, the retirements, people leaving, jumping ship, it's stuff we have not seen at this level before in all of these 300 episodes. We have not been able to see situations playing out just like it is now. So I think we're at a very, very important point as we go forward. And I think like the show itself has only grown in importance as time continues to go along.
And one more thing that comes into play with that is, of course, the situation in Mexico with the WWE buying AAA. I know that people always point out that it is impossible to buy a Japanese company from an outside perspective, but that's really not the case, actually. I mean, there are certainly rules that you have to follow, and there are certain obstacles that Japanese government throws into your way. But I looked it up the other day, and there are ways to get that done. And with WWE trying to get companies from around the world under their umbrella, I think we're going to be looking at the Japanese wrestling scene differently in 1 or 2 years, especially with companies already attaching to them.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember that WWE itself is not, like, that's not how it happened. WWE did not buy AAA because WWE does not own itself. Like, TKO owns WWE.
Yes.
And, like, they're a company, as it's come out, more details have come out that maybe they didn't even buy them. There was this company in Mexico that was a part, that the way they said it in their mission statement was that they had a partnership with this other entity that's I know Pollock and Thurston on their show. John Pollock is a friend of mine and somebody I was heavily inspired by as a podcaster. They were going to have someone from that group on. I cannot remember the name of it right now, but she ended up canceling literally at the last minute. So it's a very questionable foray into things, for sure, how they're going to do it. And I know Nick Khan, the WWE head honcho, pretty much, one of many people above Triple H on the pecking order in WWE. When he talked about their ideals for like what they wanted to do next worldwide, they mentioned Mexico, India, and Brazil as their top three, not necessarily Japan, which I thought was very interesting. You know, when you see what they've done and how many times they failed, it really feels like, you know, like how long can you chase Moby Dick around before it's like everybody jumps around? Like I always say this when this subject comes up, it's not completely impossible, but it's like 99.9% impossible what people fear could happen.
Yeah, I know. It's not completely out of the window. And even when you look at what Pro Wrestling Noah is doing with getting talent in that is suddenly winning titles there, when you see that Marigold apparently is a gateway that talent goes to WWE. We've not seen that with too many except for Julia now, but that would be something that we can discuss with Mayu Iwatani definitely.
Yeah,
there's certainly a lot of people that tend to work together with them and let WWE also dictate their pace. And with that company that bought AAA in the end, I guess you could call it a subcontractor of TKO and WWE then that bought that for them. I think that would be the easiest to call it.
It's like a whole other agency. Like I said, I cannot remember the name of it, but like I said, it's its own thing, and we don't know. Like, there's no official details on who actually owns anything. Like, sure, they did the thing on WrestleMania, but that doesn't mean anything, really. You know, like that's publicity's sake. And I mean, ultimately, my feeling on that is, if they try to make moves in Mexico like that, they're destined to fail, as they always are. As they always are. You know, so I just don't see any way that this really leads to anything that big. But obviously, like you know, you see the headline, you see people hanging out at WrestleMania.
Exactly.
You know, everyone wants to, everyone wants to chase those ghosts, pretty much. But it's not anything I think too heavily of until we see evidence that they can be successful at this, ultimately. And
I mean, they don't have to be successful in the first place, but them just trying and changing the scene in the first place, that always sets the scene into uproar wherever you go.
You know, and the thing is with Noah, the dangerous thing is the people, like I said, because the only way they can succeed is if you basically have to give it up to them. You have to really will it to happening. And even then, they've never really been successful in that way. But with Nosawa, it's like you talked about the titles and Omos. I mean, that to me is completely Nosawa's fault for like having a shiny new toy and then knowing what you were going to do and then just putting in the title on him anyway. Why would you do that?
I mean, sure.
Sure. That's the real reason why. It's Nosawa. That's why.
But that's not. I mean, you can say that that's not going to happen at any other place when there's a shiny new toy coming in from the outside and they say, "Hey, this guy is from that big company. See, they draw so many people." Lots of people will fall for that.
I know their Abema numbers don't show that they draw all these people for their shows.
Yeah. I mean, that could be the reason why they're not heavily drifting into the scene. India, they've been trying for a long time because of the YouTube numbers, and it never really went for them. No.
Yeah, I mean, like that said, all this stuff is not going to happen. So it's not that interesting of a subject to me because I think people will very easily drift into panicking when there's just no reason to. Ultimately, WWE is not a threat to Japan on a major scale at all. Like, to me, I mean, they've already learned that already. That's why he said that. Like, he didn't list them as one of their main priorities. And I personally do feel that they will learn that lesson in Mexico as well. Maybe they won't. Ultimately, here's the thing. Like, if you really analyze it and break it down, they can fight any company because of the amount of money they have. That's an undisputable fact. That TKO has more money that they can utilize for this. I'm not like super intimately familiar with how they've run UFC before their WWE acquisition, but as I understood it from then, they were pretty they were not able to really gain that much headway in other places with the UFC, the mixed martial arts side of things. So what do they want to do? That's a question that's impossible to know, really, because to be honest, if you look at WWE, they don't even know what they want to do half the time. It feels like with a lot of their stuff going on, we're just coming off of a WrestleMania that wasn't even a top 10 airing in worldwide on Netflix. That wasn't even able to make the top 10. WrestleMania, all over the world. So for them to be this boogeyman, I just really don't buy it. Ultimately, they're just not in the position to do these kind of things. But I mean, they could, in theory, on a smaller scale, sure. Yes. Definitely. I mean, look at Inamura in NXT right now. I mean, to be honest, anywhere might be better than Noah for him is the problem with this as well. And that's the problem. These companies that we're talking about, Noah and Marigold have largely been in disarray. Noah's made some moves to get better, and we'll talk about Marigold for sure. But these companies have largely been in disarray, at the end of the day. If you're a well-run company, especially in Japan, you have a ton of protections. Hopefully these guys, there's not too many more Mark Bookers like Nosawa out there that will do stupid stuff like he did. But I mean, you never know. It's wrestling. You
never know. Look at the All Japan president. He tried.
Whatever happened? Who was the mastermind? What's Nakajima up to these days?
Oh, he's checked out.
He's
completely checked out.
We brought AAA. I did see where Glate and AAA are working together now.
Yeah.
So maybe Nakajima's grand plan to get to NXT will now
finally.
This is Simon and Nakajima's way in AAA. Which, I mean, I remember I was the one who helped him get booked in Mexico many years ago, which is a true story, actually.
They wanted guys from Japan, and they named a few, and well, was
literally the only reason. Literally the only reason I advocated for him was because he was the GHC champion at the time.
Yeah,
and I thought that would make it seem bigger. Ultimately, it was nothing. thinking about him and like his lucha stylings, I would say. I don't know if he really enjoyed that trip or not, to be honest, because I know he's never been back since then. But this could be his goal, like Lucha Nakajima could be what we see next, or WWE. We have to wait and see. Like a lot of this business stuff is really, again, happening behind closed doors. We can't know. We can only look at the evidence that we have in public, which sometimes can be misleading in and of itself.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and onto that topic that things are rapidly changing here in Japanese pro wrestling. Last show you did, I was on vacation for that one. Tetsuya Naito leaving New Japan Pro Wrestling. We're having the final tour with him as a signed member of the New Japan roster. What is coming beyond that? Still up in the air. You talked about that on your show in depth, Dylan.
Yeah.
And you can see how much he means to the company and to the fans with this tour that is highly successful. And before the show, we just looked at the ticket sales for Dontaku, for the Dontaku double shot on the 3rd and on the 4th. And for that second show that has Naito's last match, there are way more tickets sold than for the one with the cage match on the day before. Still tickets available in most sections, and for the one with Naito's final match, there is not. So Naito is a crucial guy to this company's legacy and to the fans that have come in since the boom, Dylan. We just talked about the beginnings of our show in 2016. That really was the rise of Tetsuya Naito as the main guy, or one of the main guys. He was never treated as the main guy, but to the fans, to the New Japan fans, he always was one of the main guys in the company. And him leaving will leave such a deep hole in this company that I don't think a lot of people grasp right now, for many reasons. For one reason, he's always been there and has always been taken for granted. I mean, nobody could even imagine what a New Japan Pro Wrestling would look like without Katsushika Okada before he went away to All Elite Wrestling. But now here we are. We are in this post-Okada time, and New Japan hasn't even recovered from that. And now there is another blow with Tetsuya Naito leaving the company in the same year that Hiroshi Tanahashi is going to retire. And these three guys have been so important for not only the company from a wrestling side, but from a marketing side. And now all of those three will be gone in a heartbeat. And what I've been saying for years and years and years is always coming more and more true, that they have made many mistakes in the years between 2016 and 2020, where they were completely inefficient in building up new people to become stars alongside those that have already been established. And they've blown so many opportunities with those guys leaving. That begins with Shinsuke Nakamura, that went on with Katsuhiko Okada, with Kenny Omega, and now also with Tetsuya Naito. These guys all left without putting someone significantly over. And that hurt them then, it's going to hurt them now, and it's going to hurt them in the future. And that's just something that I don't even know if the company had expected that. I mean, we talked about that off the air too, Dylan, with Tanahashi being the president, and he went on to the media and said, I tried to convince him to stay, and I was hopeful and stuff like that. But in the end, it all didn't work out for the company. And with that, and also with the Jeff Cobb situation, with the IWGP Tag Team title taken away, being vacated, those were some rough weeks for New Japan Pro Wrestling, where the company looked completely foolish, and where they once again have to reassemble and re-strategize what they want to do next and who they want to put into places next.
That stuff with Cobb was so weird, like how that played out.
Yeah.
It makes it seem like it was I mean, I just remember when he won the titles, he was all like, I thought I was gone, internet. I thought I was leaving. Now I'm the champion.
Yeah, and just yesterday he had a tweet saying that he's now retiring.
Sure he is. sure he is. I said my piece on him last week and all of that. But it's hard to, what you're saying is undisputed. I think that all of this does go back to that era, like that golden age, so to speak. They were not able to transfer that into the next generation, and that's led to many, many problems. I mean, there's so many points that you could go to. Even on the last show we did with Naito, I will always point to that Dome show where he lost, and the crowd went dead silent. I will always go back to that as a huge drop ball, where I think that could have sparked an even greater boom period if they had just ran with Naito. For whatever reason, they never did. As you said, he was never really pushed as the top guy. And I made that point last time as well. So,
yes.
It's just so strange how they've used them, and they put themselves into this corner now where ideally, like the absolute ideal of any wrestling company is to build your top stars and ride them until the next generation is ready. And then the old top stars groom the next generation and build them up and put them over.
Right.
That cannot happen in the modern age of New Japan because they're all gone. like they're all gone without putting anyone over. And I mean, that's another story, and we lived through it ourselves, Strigga, through this show. You mentioned WWE, but the formation of AEW had dramatic and drastic ripple effects in the Japanese wrestling scene.
Not only for that, I mean, it had ripple effects throughout the entire world. Which we just before WrestleMania week, Dylan and I, we discussed the cards, not into depth, but we looked at some of them, and Dylan said, I mean, they look all so bad.
Yeah, they were.
Not much talent on the scene, and it's been so bad for so many years. And I said, of course, yes. I mean, AEW is a player. AEW is a vital player in that scene. And if AEW wouldn't be around, all these scenes throughout the world would be looking differently.
Oh man, you brought it back. I will shout out. Definitely recommend all of the work me and Nello De Angelis did on Wrestle Update covering WrestleMania week. We went through everything, pretty much.
Yes,
we did a lot more than I thought we were going to do, and there was literally 4 different shows. Obviously, it ended with the actual just completely just terrible WrestleMania show. But we also did stuff like Bloodsport, did Joey Janela's show, talked about the Dragon Gate shows in America. Like I said, I have some mixed feelings on the DG USA shows. Long story short on that. Those were the shows I was really those were the one shows I was actually hyped for. And then it just kind of comes into your face oh man. But yeah, now that you bring it up, AEW definitely did have a big gap on that, but specifically towards the Japanese wrestling scene. I think that really hurt New Japan specifically, in a way that we would have seen if Omega had stuck around. And who's to say, even at that point, with how things are going now, we have to face the financial realities of the economy, coming off of the pandemic and all of that. Even Naito's comments he made a statement where he kind of sideways talked about it, but he more or less was like, I'm not saying it was about pay, but I do think wrestlers should be paid like they're appreciated, type of thing. And I think, and it's true. I know that there have been people for a fact that have had to take pay cuts in this company in the last year. They're not able to pay what they used to. That's just a fact of the matter. This company is not as successful as it was back in that golden age. And these are the reasons why. They've never been able to capitalize. They've never been able to make new stars. And they've been really over-reliant on foreign talent, in my opinion, is another issue, I would say. And that really caught them they ended up catching them with their pants down like multiple times in a row, whether it was Omega, Ospreay, Jay White, like trying to build around these guys and then just losing them. That really takes a lot away. That's years that basically were meaningless in the main event scene, like for the grand future of the company. And I'm not saying there were no good matches with those guys at all, except with Jay White, which there were not any good matches, in my opinion, as I've said many, many times on the show, and pretty justified with his AEW run, I would say. But there were good moments, like in all seriousness. Like there were good moments with all of those guys. But the grand scheme, by putting so much of these foreigners as your top stars, they were not able to move on to the next generation of the native stars. And unfortunately, there's no way around it now. You know what I'm saying? Like all of these flaws are unfixable at this point. The only thing that I could see would be if Naito was able to come back in some way, which I don't think is impossible.
No, it's absolutely not impossible, especially because he can totally pressure New Japan Pro Wrestling into bringing him back if the houses are down.
And we all know how injured he is. Like, who's to say he doesn't disappear for 6 months?
Yeah. And
suddenly that Dome show is coming up, and that phone starts ringing again saying, hey, like we need a big match on this Dome show. We don't have anything.
Yeah. And one more point that I wanted to bring up with that, I think you talked about that as well with Hiroki Goto being champion. If New Japan had been able to create stars post Okada and Naito, real stars, this Hiroki Goto run wouldn't be happening right now.
True. Absolutely true.
Just look at Okada. He bypassed Hiroki Goto in an instant when he came back. And others would have bypassed Hiroki Goto as well. But that didn't work out because in some cases the guys didn't work out. In some cases there were foreigners that went away. Or in other cases the company didn't really try.
And now Callum Newman's challenging for the IWGP title.
Yeah, and that's where we are. Right.
And that tells you everything you need to know. And then no disrespect to him at all. But we know how young he is and how not ready he is for this role. They were able to dodge it. The one good thing about Naito leaving is that it's helped his, quote unquote, leaving tour in terms of attendance sales. So you could do this incredibly strange main event and have it be successful. Now, maybe maybe nobody cares about Naito anymore. This is all a groundswell of Callum Newman fans running through, trying to rush through to get tickets. But I really do think the Naito angle is much more likely for Dontaku being so successful. And that's the interesting part. How are they going to respond to this now? Because they don't have very many avenues left, ultimately. They have basically no choice but to crown someone. And who will that be? And how will they get there?
It's going to be the interesting part. It's hard to imagine that they go out of their way to do something out of the box because they've never been able to do that. But this would be the time.
Do you think there's a chance they try to sign more people outside of New Japan to fill these spots?
They practically have to. There's no other way.
And there are names out there if they want, and they're at a point where they need stars. Like, they need top people, not undercard guys. Like, they need top people. And are they willing to do that though? To make a move for a big guy and make them one of the top players in New Japan.
Yeah.
I think that ego of the dojo and the Lion Mark, is that going to cost them? And if they don't, who's out there? If they just say, look, we're going to do it, who are we bringing in to fix this mess?
The obvious name is Kento Miyahara. We've seen how popular he was when they did the Muto Tokyo Dome show.
Yeah. He would be a difference maker if they were able to sign him. They've kind of tinkered with working with All Japan too. They've made like little inroads, here and there. Nothing too deep, but they've done it. Like they had, hell, Nagano was the Triple Crown champion not that long ago. So they've made inroads there. Not really many recently. I know there was that whole like United Japan like that didn't go anywhere. We all knew that.
That thing.
Like we knew that from the like day one on this show. We both agreed that was not gonna fly. So they haven't really worked with these companies too much anymore. But I mean, we're seeing Mao in the Best of Super Junior tournament. Maybe he's somebody they think they can restock with, like guys like him and Daya they're trying to tinker around with. Maybe they have someone like that in mind. Get a couple of guys for the junior division, get a couple of guys for the heavyweight. I mean, they brought in Jake last year. And I mean, he pushed for it again. And that's another thing. It's not just bringing in guys. They need people within the company to vouch for these people. At the end of the day, I don't even know who that would be for someone like a Kento. Like that would vouch for him, other than we just know he's an amazing star, and like you said, a great wrestler and all that stuff. But they need somebody there to really advocate for that, and that would be a tremendous loss for All Japan.
Yeah, I mean, sure it would be, but I think for them at their scale, I mean, they have been able to create stars. I think that All Japan Pro Wrestling could handle the departure of Kento Miyahara much more than New Japan can handle the departure of Naito.
When you say it that way, it really rings true. Like I totally agree with that. But this is all speculation at this point. For all we know, Naito might have a goal. What do you think about my idea of him starting his own company?
LIJ Wrestling, right?
Yeah. Well, that was a working title. It's only speculation at this point. But yeah, I mean, we've seen that before. Is rarely where I went with that. Sure. I mean, obviously called back to Hashimoto. It was starting back 0-1. It seems like this leaving was less. Like with Okada, there was clearly a ton of heat there. With this, it's like. It's more like he's just a little burned out and just checked out and tired of whatever like BS behind him. But it's not like Naito hates New Japan and will refuse to work with them forever, like Okada was trying to say in his interviews. There's not that much heat there. So it would be interesting to see. My gut says he'll make a return at some point. I think that's the most logical choice. Would they get some of that Abima money and just be like, look, by God, we have a New Year's show coming up. Muto's there. I said that on the show last week too. His friend and mentor was there and his hand-picked opponent for Muto's last match. Would he come in and try and convince Naito? I mean, look, man, Bushi could come in. We'll give him the junior title. Naito, we need you to face Ozawa in the main event of, whatever.
And that would add to my point that Naito could have much pressure on New Japan Pro Wrestling if he was appearing on a Noah show.
Oh, absolutely.
New Japan would suddenly get all the funds that they have to have him come back.
And kind of bringing it back to what we said about WWE and TKO, New Japan itself does not actually own itself. Like Bushiroad owns New Japan. So yes, they have a ton of money. But they're not just going to throw endless amount of funds at their wrestling subplot of their company.
No, if they were, Okada would be still here.
Exactly. That's the problem. That's why this company's in so much financial turmoil, despite Bushiroad having all of this gotcha money that they have. They don't want to do that for logical reasons, to be honest, from a business standpoint. And it's something that you're going to run into anytime you and that goes for any company that's owned by a corporation. You're always going to be beholden to the stocks holders and all of that stuff. We'll see what that, that stuff does come out publicly too. Even for cyber agent stuff, that stuff comes out, I think, every August. So we'll see what kind of numbers they have for that. And if they want, if Cyber Agent just suddenly decides, look, man, we want to make a move, Uto has convinced us all. He's like lied to us for the millionth time, and we are needing a new guy here, and Naito's out here. Like, he's going to get phone calls. It just really depends. And that's the problem with this and why this is all ultimately speculation. The real truth of this situation is the one who is going to decide how this goes is Tetsuya Naito himself. Like, what does he want to do ultimately? Because he might have heard that and been like, start a company? Hell no. Like, I don't want to get involved in that. That's what I would say. I don't want to run a wrestling company at all. I would never do that, even with unlimited funds. Or that may be something he's wanted to do for a while. Maybe Bushi can convince him to do something, his buddy, like, best buddy. Maybe he'll get an offer he can't refuse from one of these mark owners. But it really wouldn't be a money mark, because I think if he did come to Noah, I think that would be a huge difference maker, to be honest, on whatever show he was set to appear on. Just for the novelty of it, of him appearing anywhere besides New Japan, I think would automatically be a huge boom to whoever he would be in. But really, Noah is the only logical point. Like, he's not going to come in. Like, all Japan can't afford Naito. Like, with all due respect to him, maybe they could get Bushi. At the end of the day, that was his original home.
T28, baby.
And I was a big fan of his back in those days. So, come home Bushi is the big end result that we're rooting for all of this. But it's interesting because, like I said, we've never really seen something play out like this, where, like, yes, Okada leaving was bad, but we knew where he was going. Like, we knew he was going to AEW. We knew Nakamura was going to WWE. We knew Omega was starting AEW. So we don't really know what Naito wants, and that's what makes this situation so unique.
That's exactly right. Yes. So that is the Tetsuya Naito situation. You mentioned Bushi Road. We have another situation of a person leaving, but it's way different than the one with Tetsuya Naito, because in the first place, it was very blatantly obvious that this person would be leaving the company, especially at that point, if you know when contracts end. And B, we already know that Mayu Iwatani is going to Marigold. And that leads us, Dylan, to Stardom's All-Star Grand Queendom 2025, headlined, of course, by the career versus career match between Saya Kamitani, who put on the World of Stardom title on the line as well against Tam Nakano. And I remember that when we talked about this match in the first place, you were unsure how that would translate because of the finish of the one before, where people were really skeptical and critical of the way that it all played out, with Tam Nakano losing and then being considered an outsider for Stardom, even though the stipulation said she would have to leave Stardom. But in the end, it turned out that this gamble that Stardom played on this one was completely successful. And not only that, it was not only that singular match, but they put all their baskets into one. They put all their eggs into one basket with this incredible card. And if you just look at the final 6 matches, if you just had these matches on the show, I don't think that the 10 scale for Cagematch would be enough to rate this show, because all these matches on their own were so incredibly great. But there was an entire show. This was not only this a regular Stardom show, this was much more a celebration of what Joshi Wrestling can be if it is highly successful. Because if we go back in time, there really is few shows that you can point to in the last 30 years that had a comparable success in Joshi Wrestling. I'm just looking at the Gaia show from April 4, 1999, G-Panic special 4th anniversary. That drew 6,500 fans to Yokohama Arena. Of course, All Japan Women constantly did good houses, but there is no show that you can point to in the last 25 years in Joshi Wrestling that was as successful as this one here in the Yokohama Arena with how many fans was it official? 7,503 fans.
Spectacular number. Yeah, I definitely speculated on if that bait and switch aspect would have an effect. It did not at all. It was a very smart move to how they did it. I think they nailed everything. And I remember saying in the weeks leading into it, I thought they were doing fantastic storytelling online too. Which I do think played a role in it, not just with Kamitani and Nakano, but almost every match on this show had some kind of build to it or spread off into something in the future. And I think that's really the sign of how great this show was and what will separate it from the prior big show they did with Julia and Tom in the main event is like that really turned out to be more like the end of the road and things went downhill after that. I really don't get that sense at all with this show. I think they've set up a bright future in a number of ways, actually. And the storytelling they did was so vital to that, in my opinion, where they built things to a crescendo. There were numerous angles that they ran throughout the month to build up to this. It even culminated in Tom Nakano getting hit by a car at one point, even. They did everything they could to make this feel like the biggest show possible, and they succeeded. I mean, this is one of the biggest shows, like you said, of this century in Joshi, if not the biggest, ultimately. Even a lot of those 90s shows, you know, you always have to question like the true attendance of things that were counted. I mean, who knows? Maybe this one was fudged a little bit in some way or another, but hands down, their biggest show, the biggest show in this company's history by nearly 2,000 fans.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that's just a remarkable note of success and how much people were invested in Tulsaya as the ace of this company and Tom Nakano's career as well, like very likely coming to an end. And that obviously is how it played out. But it showed how much people cared about this show. And a point I made on my Patreon review of this, patreon.com/Eastern Lariat, of course, I did this the day of the show. But I really think that March show was a real stroke of brilliance. And I think that played it. I really think that played into this a lot. And I think every company, and I kind of made this point rounding back to the start of the show, how it was 9 years ago. I think every company that has a streaming service would be so wise to put one of their shows every month free up on YouTube for people to see, dip their toes in and check out. Even that show was a build-up show. It wasn't like this that was the main show, but it gave you a chance to watch these people where you didn't have to sign up. You didn't have to pay anything. You could literally click on a link and watch it. That ease in this AI era that we're in where everyone wants convenience so much, that will lead you to success and get people much more invested in your shows. It's hard when every show you have is behind a paywall. It's hard to get people invested. Just by having a show, whether it's a build-up show, I would, like I said, if it were me, I would say once a month there should be a free show up on your YouTube page that always can keep the fans invested. Not a major show, not a big show, not a title match or anything like that, but a show that leads you to the big stuff going on. And I think that would really help out a lot of these companies, get more fans invested in their products.
Yes, we're, of course, still benefiting from the boom period 10 years ago, but those people will eventually also go away. Not watch wrestling anymore. Already. Move on. Yeah, right. Move on. They do need more newer fans, and that would be the way to go.
And we have proof right here. Like that March show had no, at worst, if there's evidence that it had positive effects, but at absolute worst, there's no evidence that March show had any negative effect on attendance or views for the show whatsoever.
No.
You know, they lost nothing, and that's at worst. They probably gained.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. If you put out stuff for free, I don't think it will ever be a detriment to the business that you're doing. Just in contrast, like you said, it will always be beneficial, I think.
And I mean, This, and not to mention, it helps that the show they put on. This show currently is the highest rated show of all time among non tribute shows. Like the only two ahead of it are the Hana Kimura and the Brody King shows.
Exactly.
This is the highest show of all time, rated 9.74. It's above Wrestle Kingdom 9, a show that got many people into this Japanese golden age that we're talking about.
And it's followed by two other shows of the golden age of Japanese pro wrestling, with Dominion 611 in 2017 and Dominion 69 in 2018.
That's exactly right, and that's the air this show is occupying right now. Like those are legendary things. The 2 out of 3 falls with Omega and Okada. That was my favorite match of theirs. We talked about it when it happened. We were there for it.
Yeah.
We remember that. And the other one was the other Okada
time limit draw.
Match. Yeah, and that was what I probably argued against. I don't remember what I said for it, but I didn't like any of their other matches as much as that 2 out of 3 falls. I thought was their peak, in my opinion. But regardless, those are two highly hailed and legendary matches in the course of Japanese pro wrestling history. Then look at the multiple Wrestle Kingdoms, things like that. NXT takeovers was super huge with the Smarks at the time. WrestleMania 17, that was a legendary. Like that's widely considered the best WrestleMania by many fans.
Yeah.
Money in the Bank 2011, the CM Punk goofballs. Voted for that. So there was a lot there. And that's where that's the air this show is fulfilling right now.
Yeah, and I don't see any disputing that, right?
There's not a lot of
haters. No.
No. I haven't seen anybody say anything negative about it.
No, not at all. It's all positive. The lowest that we have is an 8 out of 10. I mean, you can argue that if you look at some of the undercard matches. Those, of course, were 9 out of 10 matches. But if you look at the show as an overall spectacle, as an overall experience, I don't think there is any way that you cannot point out that this was one of the most important shows in the last 30 years. And this was one of the best shows in the last 30 years. When you look, just once again, Dylan, you've said that a lot today, but if you look at the grand scheme of things, this one should be considered one of the top shows in Japanese pro wrestling in a long time, because of the tail end of this show delivering on a level, on a degree that few shows ever deliver.
And it's from a storyline perspective, a match perspective, a production perspective. Walker Stewart deserves a ton of credit for his work, like studying up for all of this. They made this show all together into something like so special that it really can't be replicated. Overall, I like the undercard personally. Like, I mean, obviously, like the opener wasn't as great as the main event, but I think
sure,
like. If you compare this undercard to pretty much any New Japan big show undercard, I would take these 4 matches over whatever.
Of course, 4 I would as well. And it's not the objective of the opener of Hina and Ranagami. Yeah, maybe not. But it's not their objective to deliver a 5-star match.
That was a good match.
To have to display. These are 2 of the women that they will feature in the next coming years. They are having a good match, and that is it.
Yeah, like I said, on most shows that would be on a Champion Carnival show, that would be match of the night, like 8 out of 10.
Yeah, put this into the semi-main in Kurikan, and it will get a much higher rating.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Like I said, I love Yagami's style. Like she's got a great look, background.
She was close to winning, too.
Yeah, they made us believe in this. Hina, always improving. Like her judo background and how she's elevated herself into a power wrestler. Like just 2 good, like very young, but good wrestlers going out in the opener. This is what this title should be. Like the opening match on the show, where you see your future people. And like people like these 2, Rina, as I said, I didn't love her match. Carrara, another one, we'll talk about that. But like those girls belong in the opening spots and doing great things. And one day, all of these people will probably rise up the card to some extent and be valuable players. Because I think they all have a lot to offer. So, big fan of Hina and Yagami. I would give it a soft rec on my rating scale of 7 out of 10.
I can see that, yes. Sayaka Kurara and Tekla, not so much. I mean,
that was the one real miss of the the storylines. I think was the Tekla deal. And like I said on the show, what is up with these guys, man? What is up with these Bushi Road executives? Whether it's Okada, when Kadani would show up, why do you want these women to beat you up, you old bastards? Why do you want that?
Well,
I see what you guys are doing. Don't think
I was just going to say, I would have an answer for you, but I don't think you'd like it.
I know what they're doing, Strigga. They cannot fool me. I have an eye for this, just like no better than Suwama when he has Ozaki-gun in All Japan. These people think they can fool me, think they're living their best life, but why? Why would we have such a great show on this? Yeah. But regardless, that is how it played out. Tekla beat the shit out of Okada, and then he fired her. And I mean, this was more like the match was nothing. This angle, Tekla has gone through such a wide variety of fan responses over the years, because I remember when she first came in.
Oh man,
to Stardom, people were into her. She did the spider thing, coming in from Ice Ribbon.
Yeah, way before she came in from Austria, from a company that I wouldn't even consider a proper pro wrestling company at all. They do somewhat professional training, but not really. It's an underground company. She came into Ice Ribbon, and I was very skeptical of this woman coming in. But man, she worked so hard even in Ice Ribbon back then to become much better. And then she came into Stardom, and she very much blossomed there.
Well, as a former All-State Wrestling public access TV champion, Showtime All-Star Wrestling dark match wrestler, I know these kind of underground companies. I've been around these kind of blocks, Strigga. And she does deserve credit for that. And she had a popular reaction for the first little while she was in Stardom. But somewhere along the line, maybe it was the gimmick, maybe it was the idol killer and all that. But somewhere along the line, everyone who liked Stardom decided she was basically the worst pro wrestler who ever lived. And that is how they've treated her for the last year. And now she gets her chance to live her dream of being fired and getting to go to, it's rumored that she will make a move to AEW, which, again, I have no real issue with, whatsoever. I have nothing against her at all. I agree with your thoughts that she deserves praise for overcoming such a small country in terms of wrestling and being out here. And I know that she's a genius, level person. She knows 5 languages and stuff like that.
Yes, and she's a great artist.
Yeah, so you were at her art show.
Yes.
I saw you there, Strigga. You think you could fool me? Okay.
I'm not fooling you.
I know what you were up to there. You saw some great art. And you said,
I was up to that.
Absolutely. And you saw Clark Connors hiding in the background too, right?
He wasn't hiding.
Oh, okay. I apologize, Clark. I didn't mean to say you were hiding. I only meant it respectfully. I thought you were trying to give your girl some shine. That's all. I would do the same thing, brother. On that end. But Sayaka Kurara, I will say one thing on her. Tremendous future. I love the tag match she had. She was briefly in the main event storyline as Kamitani was trying to corrupt her to join her group. And eventually the Power Friendship won with Sayaka and Tom. And it was very cheesy, but also I kind of loved it at the same time.
Yeah. The next one, I'm... Do you think that Yumiko Hotta added anything to this show?
She got to have fun beating up this young wrestler.
Yes.
That's all that she added. She got her own personal fun.
Okay.
Did it help anything? No.
No.
But I mean, on the other hand, she is from the golden age of Joshi in her own right.
Yeah.
She is a name. She's very old at this point. But she is a name. And for somebody on Rina's level, again, she's on that Hina, Yagami, Future of Stardom level, maybe a little bit above. She recently had that match with Starlight Kid, which was very highly rated. A lot of that was the emotional aspect of it. I would say with the Hana Kimura tribute and all of that being a part of it. But she's got a great future ahead of her. This match will not affect that. But did it add anything? No. I don't think this will mean anything to her career or the show. It was just it let Hoda have her fun.
Yes. So then we went to the 6-man tag, the final appearance for Meiko Satomura in Yokohama Arena. I just mentioned the show from 1999. On that show, she also appeared in the semi-main event with Soroko Kato, teaming against Aja Kong and Mayumi Ozaki. And on that night, Satomura defeated her senior, Aja Kong, with a Death Valley bomb. So she came back here with her trainees, with Mika Iwata and Yuna from Sendai Girls, to face the Cosmic Angels team of Natsupoi Saori Ano and Aya Sakura. It's been a storyline between Sendai Girls and Saori Ano. Natsupoi also was in Sendai Girls last year, so they are squaring off once again. It was a good 6-man tag, good action there for 13 minutes. Nothing too spectacular, but once again, a good showing for the Sendai Girls team.
And for them, it's meaningful because they get to wrestle in front of so many fans.
Yes.
To wrestle in front of 7,500 fans is a huge deal for any wrestler, no matter who you are. And especially, you're from this smaller company in the countryside. You come to the big stage, get a win over a noteworthy team. I think that's very meaningful for Yuna and Mika Iwata, who's somebody we've all loved for years. The wrestlers haven't really respected her as much as maybe the fans do, unfortunately. That's why her title reigns have not been as great as they could have been. But Yuna has a ton of upside.
She's great. She's really
great young wrestler. Yeah.
I just yesterday I thought about her beginnings, and I think she's way better than Rhea Seto.
Yeah. That's true, but she doesn't do JoJo's Bizarre Adventures poses, however, as well. I think so. It kind of balances it out a little bit. But no, I agree. I think Yuna has the upside. The look is amazing. The wrestling is very much improved. I think that she's doing a great work, and obviously, with the people she's in with, of course, she's going to look good. And I like that they made so much of this, I'd like that Sakura was kind of like the one they kind of built this match around to have her show down with Meiko. I will say this. In my opinion, and I mean, obviously you can't really argue with it. It was hugely successful. The show was one of the best ever, according to the fans. Show of the year candidate for sure. I was really disappointed that Natsupoi didn't have a bigger role on this show, because I think in the past year she's been arguably an MVP level player for the company, and I think to end up in this kind of like 7th from the top multi-man tag, multi-woman tag, I think she deserved better. That's on it, and somebody had to take the fall. All of the 6 matches above had good build. Maybe you could have swapped her and Micah, but then you would have to mess with the team situation. So
that's the thing with these big shows. I mean, and a roster that Stardom has like them. I mean, New Japan wouldn't be in the position where they could put on 6 matches in a row that had such variety and such great wrestling on it right now. But in the Stardom's case, there are so many women that you can put in front of Natsupoi right now, and you can also make the case, like you said, to put her into a similar situation, but it just didn't work out this way.
Yeah, at the year-end show, she was the white belt champion,
right?
Like one of the main people, and then a few months later, 7th from the top.
Yeah, and on your point of Aya Sakura, it of course makes sense that she's in this position in the end, in the finish with Satomura, because she still is the Sendai Girls Junior champion. Recently won the title in March, I think she won the title. Yes, she did, from Chichi, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, she did.
An amazing match that they
Very
had
good match, yes.
in January, like a great match. The second one wasn't as good as the first, but always will say, get well soon, Chichi.
Get well soon. And we can also include the Jiro Hashimoto versus Maika match into the conversation here for the Sendai Girls World title. That also was a very, very good match. Maika got to show a lot against Hashimoto. Hashimoto, in the end, won the match dominantly, first with the Albright, then with the devastating, really devastating powerbomb that she has. And with the Sendai Girls wrestlers being on this show and with the Meiko Satomura final show, it really feels like that this entire scene is determined to have Sendai Girls stick around after Meiko Satomura's retirement. They're determined to show these wrestlers on a big, big stage, and all of these wrestlers will benefit from being on this show in the end. They looked like much, much bigger stars than they initially were, and they will come out of this show being bigger stars. And so I think that it's vital for the entire scene to keep a company like Sendai Girls going, because that is where you can send your talent to branch out, to experience new stuff, new crowds, new wrestlers, and you can also benefit from them coming into your show and putting on another great title match.
It's no secret. This scene right now is not in a great spot. But outside of Stardom, of course, right now. But you've seen the moves Sendai has made, getting on to Wrestle Universe, getting more eyes on their product, working with Stardom closer, and it's really helped them like stand up and withstand the tide that they've had to deal with. Like not just them, but just the whole scene itself. They've done a great job of overcoming that tide. Meiko, although technically this was her retirement road, the real truth is she's been gone for a long time now as well. So like they're well prepared to move on without her as it is. This was just more, I mean, I don't want to say publicity stunt like this run, but it is. Like that's pretty much what it is. Like she was gone already. Like she's just having her official retirement now. And it's worked out to tremendous success for both herself and the company surrounding her. And you see it in shows like this. Get well soon, Maika as well, who's going to be taking some time off with an injury. So I hope that she's doing okay. But yeah, the match was good. This is the problem with this show. It's an embarrassment of riches. Like every match, like you have to fight really hard to stand out.
Yeah, and they did fight so hard. I mean, it started with Suzuki and Mei Sarah.
Well, that did stand out. Yeah.
They were so determined to go hard and to stand out at the same time. Man, the thing that they threw at each other was so amazing and so brutal at some points. I mean, it made me cringe at some points, but it was a great match.
I liked it. I thought that they worked a very unique style. This wasn't deathmatch Suzu at all. Like they started off like this was such a weird match. I've seen some criticism of it, but I actually liked it, like psychology wise. They basically did the hardcore stuff at the start, had busted each other open, and then they transitioned it more into a regular match, which I thought was an interesting psychological call, but I think it really worked. And I thought this was the most motivated Suzu has looked in a long time. Yeah. They broke her off from the faction. They broke up the tag team here. This had a great storyline going into it. Former tag team champions imploding. And Suzu's leading her own faction, Mi Vida Loca, with Rina Yamashita as well. And, I think it's a great call for her. I think she's doing some super inspired work as well. I know that she's been dealing with, it's a sad thing online. She's faced some criticism for her weight gain. It's a shame she even had to explain her medication that she took on that caused her weight. But I say, who cares? Like, she looks great. She wrestles great. She's a badass wrestler. She's doing some of the best work of her career. She's got nothing to feel bad about, in my opinion. And she proved it once again here. But it also, I think I do ultimately agree that she should have won this match with the new faction. But I think Mei Sarah is such a damn great wrestler. Like,
I believe that she would actually win the match with all the efforts they did.
And every scenario they put her in, she succeeds. And I think that shows the gap between her and two certain white belt people that are kind of stuck in the high speed world. And she's somebody who succeeds in every situation, whether it's a tag team, whether it's a longer match like this, whether it's a hardcore match. She deserves credit. This is not her comfort zone. Like, this is not a match that she's done a million times or is known for. But she stepped up so strong. She put passion into this and brought the absolute best out of Suzu Suzuki. So I thought this, to me, was the third best match on the show, besides the two obvious ones I think everyone will point to. But I thought this was the one that stood out the most.
It was really great. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a great story, again, and a great finish. And just everything about it was really strong. I really, really enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah. I did too. We already talked about the Sendai Girls, or I did talk about the Sendai Girls World Title match. Dylan, anything else on that?
It was good. I think they tried their best to not, like, I really feel like they have a great one in them, which I don't think this was, but this was very good. And I would say that they ended up bringing it home into a strong finish. And Hashimoto definitely, like, super aura. Like, she always comes across like a huge star.
Yes, incredible. And you definitely wanted an opponent for Hashimoto that you knew going in Hashimoto is probably going to defeat.
Yeah.
But there should be some little doubt about it. So you don't want anyone from the undercard. You want someone that already has won something in this company. And Meiko was the perfect one, I think.
Yeah. Like, they had a decent little build. They had the brawl at the press conference.
Yeah, Meiko appeared at Sendai Girls too.
Yeah, her and Hanako had the tag run there. So it was good storytelling and a good match. It was just not stand out on this. Like I said, if you put this on another show, it would feel like a main event level match. But on this show, it just goes to show the strength of the card. That this was like, the 6th, 7th best match on the show. And that's like a big thing. I had this at like 3 3/4, like 8 out of 10, 7.89 rating on Cagematch, and it's still like the 6th highest rated match. So, it's good on them, but it's just a tough spot to be in on a loaded card like this. Where this was ultimately like a dream match. There was no big story to it. It was just going for the title. Sendai versus Stardom. Yeah. They wrestled and hit hard, did good stuff.
And what followed next is basically a blueprint of this, because the card was so loaded. And you talked about Natsupoi before. When you look at the individual parts of this match, the Goddesses of Stardom match with Hanan, Saya Ida, Hazuki, and Koguma, you'd think that someone like Saoriano, in principle, would be higher up on the card than all these four. But because they are two so accomplished tag teams that ended up working together so well in this situation, this match completely made sense and was the perfect fit, I thought, for this position on the card. And it delivered big. I was heavily into Hana and Saya Ida being able to overcome Hazuki Koguma. It was very close with lots of near falls on Hazuki and Koguma's part in the end. Saya Ida always came back in to save Hanan and ended up winning the match for the team. That was a very well told story.
Well, this to me was the best built match on the show. They had went back. I spoke on this on a prior show about particularly the issue between Hanan and Hazuki, where Hanan cut a shoot promo on Hazuki getting fired as the trainer and being a bully. And Hazuki basically saying, like, what have you done to criticize me? Like, they had an amazing promo battle with Koguma also being a part of that as well. So this to me was like my most anticipated match on the card. It was like, I thought that like all of the hype for this was around Hanan and Hazuki, like going one-on-one. But for whatever reason, I felt like Koguma and Ida really transferred that spirit to them. Ida hit this insane muscle buster to Koguma on the apron that looked awesome. They had this like violent match. With Hazuki and Hanan, I made this point on the other show I did. Like, in my mind, I wanted this match to be a violent brawl. Like, these two, like, punching the hell out of each other, bust somebody open, Hanan, like, fighting against Hazuki, and Hazuki just, like, destroying her. Instead, we had Ida and Koguma doing great wrestling. And I would describe the Hanan and Hazuki psychology to be to something to that of a Japanese-style horror movie, where, like, so you're laughing, but like, listen to what I'm going to say here.
Yeah.
Like, a Japanese-style horror movie is not like, because obviously, like in American style, it's all bloodbaths, like everyone's gonna die, you know, freaking Eli Roth and Saw and all that bullcrap. In a Japanese style movie, it's more so something crazy is gonna happen, and they build and build and build to that moment.
Yes, I mean, I was laughing because it was so accurate.
Well, and it's true, you know, like that's how they built this match to where, like I said, I wanted them to come out guns blazing, like a fiery fight to the finish type of deal. Instead, they built and built and built until finally Hanan like took issue with Hazuki, and then we got what we wanted at the end. And I thought the booking was it goes to show how much they see in Hanan here, and this was really the first time I really agreed with them, I would say, because they tried that Cinderella deal last year, and I really thought that she wasn't ready.
I was just going to bring up that exact same point.
Yeah, and they've transitioned her to this much smarter push, teaming with Ida, where Ida's the seasoned worker, and Hanan can kind of like piggyback off of that while still maintaining her like push and their star power they see in her. Here was the first time that Hanan felt like, okay, this could be a main event player. Because she gave a shoot headbutt to Hazuki, knocked her block off, and
dropped her on the head.
And that was it. Like, it was a totally definitive win.
Yes.
Where she destroyed Hazuki on the first go-around. In my opinion, this is personal. People listening can agree or disagree with what I'm about to say. I think FWC is a significantly better team than Wingori. Like, with all due respect to them, I like them. Like, it's not that I dislike them. I think, like, FWC is one of the best teams in the entire world. And should always be main event level players in Stardom. That's not always how it plays out, unfortunately, with those two. But I think I would have had FWC win here. This is just a personal preference. I would build to Hanan getting that win, maybe in the 5-star later this year. Instead, she destroyed Hazuki in basically the first shot. like their first major match against each other after all of that, she destroyed her. Like, it was a totally definitive win for Hanan here. There's no reason for there to be any further continuance of this issue.
That's accurate.
And I think that I would have done it the other way. Like, drag this out more.
I see
where you get the big win later for Hanan over Hazuki. But that said, she looked freaking awesome doing it. I will say. So credit to her. Credit to all for it. I like Ida and Koguma will like forever be underrated by the booking team here. But I think they're really solid workers. I thought they had a great match while the storytelling aspects aligned with Hazuki and Hanan, and it all played out to a great ass match. Like, I really enjoyed it. And like I said, maybe a little disappointing to my mind's eye for it, but that was a me issue. In reality, it was still a great match.
It was almost 15 minutes, perfect timing too, I thought.
All really the matches were like, this show had a great pace in my opinion, up and down.
It totally had. The next one, Dylan, 21:54 for the IWGP Women's title. Shuri defeated Mayu Iwatani. When you look at the lineage of this title, this is incredible who held it. And Sari might be the next one. It's Kairi, Mercedes Moné, Mayu Iwatani, now Shuri. Sari came out after the match, of course, after Shuri beat Mayu Iwatani. After a long time of many, many, many near falls and an incredible high intensity between these two almost from the get-go, Dylan.
Oh, yeah, this was a tremendous match. As you would expect, I saw Lyric make that point online too about the lineage of this title. I mean, it's only 4 people, to be fair. It's easy to get it right the first few times. Like, we'll see what happens when they try, put a hate member as the champion or something like that. That may turn some things around negatively. But as of now, yes, this title rules in terms of lineage. And this match was amazing. I mean, I think
shout out to Lyric, by the way. That's where I first read it.
Yeah. See, like I said, we both read it from her.
Yes.
Shout out to Lyric, a listener to the show. So very good work she's doing on her YouTube page as well. And I really enjoyed that stat you brought up, that she brought up. The match was amazing. I will say, their match last year was like a top 10 match of the year. And this one may very well be a top 10 of this year for me as well. I think it's up there. I think it's one of the better matches I've seen. The only flaw would be the Mayu slipped on the ray of light.
Yes.
Which, I mean, it was a minor thing. After 20 minutes of this hard-hitting battle, it didn't kill the match for me, but I think that does have to be taken into account when compared to the first match where she hit it perfectly, at the end of the day. So they did a great job, though. Shuri is like, it's amazing because she went like a year, maybe even longer than a year, as basically doing nothing. Like, she was a comedy character for most of the time. Like, her biggest claim to fame was being the third woman in the Koguma and Rana Yagami Bear feud, which she was amazing at, to be fair. But this match and the Sorry match from last month, like, this just shows you, damn it, Shuri really is one of the greatest wrestlers walking this planet. And I thought she was basically perfect in this match. And what a run she's been on between those two matches. And now with this title, she's only going to have the chance to improve upon it even more. And I'm really looking forward to this run. Shuri's back where she belongs as one of the top single stars. We're going to get some banger matches for sure in the next few months. And I think, look at this roster she has to run through. If they want to go long with this like they did with Mayu, damn, this could be a hell of a run we're in for, Strigga. Shuri Kondo, I can't wait to see what you do next. And this was a hell of a match.
This was a hell of a match. Yeah, certainly. Do you think Sari has a shot if they do the match next time?
It's certainly possible. I mean, look at their first match. I mean, I think they specifically had this in mind when they did that, to be honest.
Yes.
My gut says Shuri will win, but it's very close. It would be like a 60-40 split.
Yeah, I'm leaning a bit more towards Sari, given that, like you said, they didn't really recognize Shuri as a top talent in the last couple of months.
I think if they were going to... my only argument against that is I think they could have done that, just had Sari beat Mayu if they wanted to.
I think they could have done that. I think they could have.
I think
why they didn't do it.
Well, and I think they're trying to repair Shuri's image. Is where we're at now. Because they need somebody to replace these people that are leaving.
That's correct. That is absolutely correct. Yeah.
I mean, that's my opinion. You may very well be right. I'm not saying there's no way Sari could win. I think that there's a very solid chance that she could, and I think she'd be a great addition to this amazing roster. Yeah. But that's another one. It's like Naito. What does she want to do ultimately? Like, does she really want to be tied down for another promotion again, like she was with Marigold last year? She might be more comfortable doing her freelancer stuff. But maybe she could do both. Maybe they have that in mind. But I'll tell you, as a fan, I would be sad if they did all this for Shuri just to have her lose, and then we go back to how it was, because we've seen the potential in the Sari match and the Mayu match. But let's be honest, if Sari won the belt, that would be a pretty gosh darn amazing reign as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so Mayu Iwatani on this show said that she was going to go on a new path. At that point, probably everybody knew what was going to happen, and the next day it was announced.
Right over there, down the road.
Yes. And the next day it was announced that she was leaving, and between then and now that we are recording, it was announced that she is indeed joining Marigold. They had the press conference on Rossi Okawa's birthday. It couldn't be any more perfect for his daughter to come back and join him to the project that she was going to be included from the first place, but it didn't work out then. And now she's coming in to face Nanae Takahashi immediately, because of course Nana is retiring, and there's no need to prolong that match anytime further. So that's going to be happening, of course. And I guess this is nothing revealing or any revelation or any kind of that. I mean, it's two things that are possible. Either Mayu Iwatani is in for the long run with Marigold, or Mayu Iwatani, like I said before on this show, is going to have a stay with Marigold, help to get the company running even more. Probably what Julia tried, or what they tried with Julia. And she may also be joining Io and Kairi in WWE in the next coming years.
This is a real testament to like human psychology. I feel like, because the truth is, the minute Ogawa started Marigold, there was a 100% chance Mayu was going to go there.
Nobody didn't even doubt that.
But they started to. Though, like I said, and like that's why we're seeing these WWE rumors pop up, which were literally impossible. Like there was
it was completely impossible. Yes, at this point it was impossible.
That she was going to, but like I said, the only reason she didn't go was because of the movie. Like she was contractually obligated to stay because Stardom was involved with the movie. That's it. It's literally that simple. There's no debate or like secret behind it. That's it. And now that's all over with. Her contract is up, and she's in Marigold right away. Like they didn't even wait. They didn't even wait till Sunday to do this. Like they just did it now. Like we're literally talking about it. They had that conference a few hours ago as we're talking. And to be honest, I think it's a desperately needed addition for the company. I mean, it's so sad.
We talked about it at the beginning of the year with Marigold losing Nanae and Sari.
And it's just a shame because, like, her comment when she came in was talking about how bad the roster was. She was like, man, all I see is people botching moves all over the place. I really need to work with these girls to help them be better. That's not something I want my top star saying when she's in the company. And I mean, she's not wrong. Like, she's not wrong. And I'm not criticizing Mayu at all. I probably would have said, hey, did you have to say that on the intro press conference? Like we could have kept that behind closed doors, But that's what I would have thought. But I'm not criticizing her because she's right. Like the roster, there's been improvements. Like the truth is that they're better now than they were, when they first started, for sure.
Without question.
And that deserves praise. I think, like, to me, I don't see any road where this doesn't end up with her not winning the title. Like, Utami is not world title caliber. Like, that's all, and we've seen it, we know it. There's no argument to be had at this point. Like I said, Mirai, they're building to the big match between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Mirai's looked good. She's got the crowd behind her, doing some good mic work. And
she did get the pinfall. That was one of the more inorganic things that I've ever seen in pro wrestling, where it was so blatantly obvious that, yes, she is pinning the champion.
Well, they had to do something. Have you seen how they booked her?
I mean, sure, they had to, but it was their own fault that they had to.
Well, and that's a problem. This company has not been very well run, I would say. The hope is that, I mean, this is going to be a test. Like, this, just on her level.
Yeah.
Because I've made this point, too. Like, this is kind of like the untold story of Mayu. Like, the icon of Stardom and all of that. Look at her title reigns. It's not that dissimilar from a Tetsuya Naito, where they never actually really put her as the number one star. Like, her biggest reign was Clap Crowd Pandemic era, and it really wasn't popping off at all.
No, it was after Kairi and Io had gone.
That's the thing. I remember a year-end climax. It may have been 2016, and it may have been 2017. But I remember they built up to Io versus Mayu for the title, and this was it. Like, this was her chance to win, and she lost. And I remember being just like, man, I can't believe this coming on this show. I remember saying, this is how Gotos are made. Jobbing people out in big spots. Yes. And she obviously overcame that to have her title runs. But she was never really positioned as the main event on all of their shows or anything like that. That was always Utami, and then Shuri, and then Julia, and then Tom Nakano, and then Saya Kamitani. Like, those are the people that they really was the apple of Bushiroad's eye. Like, Mayu is obviously always vital to the company. I'm not saying she's not at all, and a very important player historically. But in terms of who they put in the main events, she really had that one run in the very start of the pandemic that was truly meaningful in that way. And this run in Marigold is going to be a true test of her popularity and what that icon label really means. Will the fans back this? For a company that's not been uber successful by any stretch of the imagination, they had a really strong champion with Sari last year. Are they going to show out for Mayu now? Like Rossi Ogawa's golden child, pretty much. His dream has come true. He's got the one that he wanted. Will the fans rally behind her in this role? Because she's going to be the main event of this company. Like, she's unquestionably the top star at this point. Will they rally behind that? Will this lead to greater heights for the company? I think it's an interesting storyline to follow her run, because I think people just automatically presume she was like this legendary ace character. But that's, like, in terms of main events, that's not true. Like, you know, like her runs was after everyone left, like you said. And even then, they moved on pretty quick.
And even on this card, she's third from the top.
Exactly. Like, she's been an IWGP run, which, yes, the title is very prestigious in terms of lineage.
But in the grand scheme of things, it's not.
Well, and that's the thing. It's not on the level of a red belt, you know, ultimately. Like, the red belt level is where she's only had not a great foray into it. So now we're going to have to see how that translates to Marigold. And I definitely, in terms of a talent, incredible. Like, one of the best, I would say. I like her better than Io's run in Japan. Me as a fan. But it will remain to be seen how this goes. And to be honest, the roster still has a lot of weaknesses. Like I said, Mirai's getting there, but Utami needs a lot of rehab, and a lot of people are kind of giving up on her. And a lot of these other talents are still very young, and they have a lot of, like, she herself said that in her introductory press conference. She knows this roster is not very good. I think her personality and how she is as a wrestler and how much she cares and is going to try her hardest for Rossi Ogawa, she's going to take it upon herself to build this company to make it something great. But the fans are going to have to ride with it. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it goes. But I will say, again, purely as a fan, I think it's going to be fantastic to see her and Nanai one more time in a match, and I'm very much looking forward to that. We'll see what Marigold does with WWE in terms of, like, bringing people over or anything like that. I personally, I'm not like 100% writing off that she would go to WWE, but I think knowing her personality, I think it's really unlikely she would leave Japan for an extended period of time. And she kind of gave a comment about that because somebody asked about it. She was like, I've got my cats, I got my dogs. I don't want to leave these guys behind. I just think she's more comfortable being with someone who meant so much to her personally in Rossi Ogawa, training this new generation, being the one that stayed true or whatever. That really feels like the best for me. I could see them bringing over a WWE talent in the future. You can't write that off. Like have an Io and Mayu tag match, something like that. They could put in, but I don't know. You know, with Julia, her situation was very unique because she was going to go to WWE no matter what. Like, she just got this little extra time to help get Marigold started as best she could. I mean, I don't think that really affected too much in the grand scheme of things, but you know, she was going there no matter what. You know, there was no stopping that. But she did get a few months with Marigold to start off. With Mayu, she's signing to Marigold. And like I said, I don't anticipate her leaving, but you know, you never know at the end of the day. I mean, AEW probably is not going to be open for, you know, because we know of Tony Khan's problems with Rossi. And there's really no other logical avenue other than AEW or WWE for one of these talents. I guess, you know, unless some other company pops up, you know, who knows what could happen with American wrestling. But like I said, it's going to be interesting. I'm so fascinated to see how this run goes as the true ace of a company for Mayu Iwatani. And I think this could be her greatest work.
We'll find out. Yes, and as you said, there need to be wrestlers replacing Mayu Iwatani at the position that she was at. And they put one of them in Starlight Kid in a position in the semi-main event position of this card. And I want to say that the presentation that Starlight Kid was given on this show was spectacular. She was portrayed as one of the biggest stars on this roster in her entrance. That was incredible. So I could see putting a lot of effort behind Starlight Kid going forward. She's the one of Stardom champion. She remained that against Azumi in a match that I thought was good. There was a lot of limp work that Starlight Kid, of course, did with her stretch muffler against Azumi, trying to take away her quickness. Azumi still got the Azumi Zushi in a couple of times to get near falls out of that. But in the end, it was a dominant win for Starlight Kid with her Tiger Suplex version, with the what's it called, the star suplex hold. Yes, good match here. Nothing too spectacular, I thought, but this was in between the two big matches.
Yeah, this is as I anticipated when I talked about it before, because Starlight Kid is going to be one of the top stars of this company. It's been obvious for months now that this was coming, and I thought it was very cool to put these two in a semi-main event, a far different position than Azumi's used to.
And once again, to the storytelling of this company, they turned her at an almost perfect moment to become a babyface and to join a faction and to now be slowly but surely be pushed into that position that she can become one of the top babyfaces of this company.
Absolutely. That's all very accurate. She's done a great job. I thought the storyline of this match was really strong because not just the white belt was on the line, but the leadership of the faction, Neo Genesis, was also on the line between these two. And it meant so much on a personal level because of the rivalry these two have had, finally coming together as a team after all these years. And it leading them to the semi-main event of the biggest show ever for the company. I think, first of all, it's obvious that Starlight Kid's injured, and I think that affected the match. Like, she had a very clear arm injury. And secondly, I think, I hate saying this because I've been such a champion for her over the years, and I still love her, and she's amazing in so many ways. I think 20 minutes for Azumi showed there's still some limitations. Like, she hasn't completely escaped that high-speed roll. Kind of what I said about May Sarah earlier, where she's proven that she has all of these different layers to her. This match was the chance for them to show out. And I do think the injury played a part in that. I hope that they can get another go-round on this where it can be something really special, because we know that they have that in them. They've had great matches before. But never in a main spot like this. Never getting 20 minutes, which I knew was going to happen. Like, this was a test for these two in particular, and it was still good. Like, the worst these two could do is better than a lot of wrestlers, but this was still the most lesser version of their match, I would say. But they've had plenty of other matches that were much more impressive, and they were able to they basically did their match and stretched it out, and one of the participants was injured, and I thought it was still good. But it didn't stand out the way the Suzu and May match did.
Yeah, absolutely. That then leaves us, Dylan, with the main event of this show, and I wanted to give you the floor here first for this. You were there for the entire build for Saya Kamitani and Tam Nakano. The career versus career match, it is rated 9.59 based on 245 votes on Cagematch. So far, the lowest. Oh, there is one user that actually gave this a 0. Zero.
Hater alert.
Trying to find the comment, but I'm not.
I see it.
There it is.
Yeah, I see it.
This was bad. Okay. Well, I guess there has to be one guy, right?
Yeah, definitely one of the worst matches of all time.
Of all time.
It's
way worse than Horace Hogan matches in 1999.
Very few things are worse than that. This is definitely up there. But no, to me, you mentioned the presentation. of Starlight Kid, this match felt like the most important match. Like, this was a WrestleMania main event level of importance feeling to it here. And I think most matches, like even Wrestle Kingdom main events, don't get to that level these days. I mean, I just look at this past year's Wrestle Kingdom. Like, this felt like the most important match in the history of Stardom that happened. And they've never really been able to recapture that feeling outside of the Julia and Shuri match, where Julia won the title. And that was another one where the stakes were very personalized. And in my opinion, more organic than this. I mean, the thing is, this story, it really is a love it or hate it type of thing. But it's not organic. I mean, the organic part was when they had to break away from the story and Saya broke character at the end of the show to cry and support her mentor.
Yeah.
Hitting somebody with a car is not real. Like, like that. That's the Tom Rhodes stuff, which again is part of the Tom Nakano package. And it's part of what makes her so special as a performer. Like, not everybody else is going on writing 20-page Twitter threads of lore to build up all of her matches. Nobody's going on these interviews, saying all of this provocative stuff, trying to hunt for a husband and all of this stuff, saying she wanted to main event a show, a battle royal to determine her husband, coming in there with the bikinis, having like no physical shame at all. She just wanted to get publicity. Like, that's the thing about her. And I've always said it. The thing about Tom Nakano, and part of what makes her so special and so great, she demands attention. She cannot thrive in this world and without attention placed upon her. And that's shown through every step of her wrestling career, and how she went from an indie wrestler, hanging around with Atsushi Onita, to the biggest star in all of Joshi Pro Wrestling. And that deserves, because like, there's a lot of stuff she does that a lot of people would say is cringe. And a lot of people got tired of her. A lot of people got tired of her booking. A lot of people got tired of how they used her matches, the melodrama, all that stuff. But damn it, sometimes you need that high, cheesy, emotional factor in wrestling. And I think that she really brought that to the table in a way that will not be replaced. Maybe you could get a great wrestler to fill these shoes, a Shuri or whatever, but you cannot replace what she meant in terms of a social media icon, somebody to build up her matches, somebody that went around the city demanding attention. As I said before, the go home angle to this was literally somebody getting ran over with a car. That's not going to happen in all likelihood in the near future, as long as she's gone. So I think taking this at face value and the emotional aspect. Listen, the end of this show was black feathers falling from the sky.
I was just going to bring up the beginning of this, even just the color scheme of plain black against plain white is so over the top cheesy, and then the end with the black feathers falling down from the ceiling, and them both sitting down, and Tom's saying, "Oh, look at this." It was so incredibly over the top cheesy, yes.
Which was a reference to Arisa Hoshiki, who I wish had been.
I saw the video.
Yes, I wish could have been there for this. But as I said, Kamitani broke character and was basically a babyface by the end, crying about the loss of her mentor in wrestling. And then the show, they did what AEW refused to do with the Hollywood ending, and let the show fade to black on this.
Yep.
And that's how it ended. The match itself was just a fantastic display. I thought the finishing stretch was like one of the best I've seen in a long time. With Saya getting the win with the Twilight Dream. They really heightened this on commentary, and I thought they made it so great. I thought Saya, the guy who rated it 0 out of 10, was talking about how bad the strikes were. I thought that she actually did a lot better. I think that she's grown a lot, Kamitani. Because there was a time period I'd be on that guy's side, and I'd be like, look, Kamitani's offense sucks.
I think this heel turn has really unlocked her and like her true potential, what she could be as a wrestler. And it's not what she could be, it's what she is. Like, she's the top star in Joshi Perez and one of the bigger stars in all of wrestling, period, in Japan at the moment. Not too many other people are drawing 7,500 people like for their main event. They got the Tokyo Sports, the Weekly Pro Wrestling cover. They had an amazing emotional ending. I thought the match was perfect for what they wanted it to be. Stylistically, I probably enjoyed Shuri and Mayu a little bit more.
I would agree with that.
But for what they were going for and what they needed it to be for the retirement angle of Tom Nakano, I think it was basically perfect. Like, I don't think they could have done anything more to accomplish what they specifically set out to do. And I thought both women performed at an extremely, extremely high level, and it deserves to be rated in the air it is. I don't think this will be a match of the year level match for me, but it's not that far off. Like, it's not impossible this would finish in the top 10 for me, but it's rated as, like, again, one of the best matches of the whole year anywhere, on Cagematch. And I think a lot of that is the emotional stakes of the match itself.
I guess so too. I mean, the finish was amazing with her holding Tam Nakano's hand throughout the move, throughout the pinfall, and even after that, the camera zoomed in, of course, to that holding of the hand, and that then led, of course, to her breaking character and crying, and them walking down the stage together. It was done very well. Yeah.
It was amazing. It was an amazing spectacle, and a perfect way to end. Again, this was like a WrestleMania, and better than like a WrestleMania like these days, because of TKO's greedy nonsense. Like, they can't even do spectacle right anymore, and New Japan definitely fails at that. Like, this was truly a spectacle match through and through. All of the pomp and circumstances, the feathers, and all the rest. It had to be this way to be like to reach its full potential and be as amazing as it was. So I think they all deserve a lot of credit, but none more so than the company. And now we will see where, like, Kamitani is firmly established as the ace of the company. I think this title reign will continue for a long time. I mean, they could have, if they had really wanted to. I mean, I'm sure this wasn't the plan, but considering how it played out, if they really wanted to throw everyone for a loop, they could have they could have easily have ended this show with a true, because I like I said, she just kind of went on her own. She couldn't help herself, and that's fine. But they could have built to a true babyface angle for Tulsaya at this point, because the fans love her. Like, at the end of the day, like, she is a heel, and the look and the black and all that stuff, everyone loves it. And she's done an amazing job. But the fans love her. Like, she is truly the ace of the company at this point, and this only further established that. So I fully expect her to be a very successful champion, and I think she has a pretty strong case for a company MVP award if things go how they keep going right now for them. And Tom, I mean, like I said, losing her is going to be a blow. I'm still not fully convinced this is her true swan song, personally. Like I said, it would surprise me if we don't see her in the ring again at some point. But we also don't know what's going on in her personal life. What her plans are for the future. Mm-hmm. But in my heart, and I say this about every wrestler, really. It's not just unique to her.
And especially about those that trained under Atsushi Onita.
Well, yes, obviously that. Again, like, that's the thing. Every piece of evidence we have of this human being is that she loves attention. And how will she handle not having a spotlight? I don't know. Like, well, can we truly say forever is a long time, you know?
No, we cannot.
And that's the thing. Like, I'm not ready to just fully say she's gone forever. But this does seem to be the final nail in the coffin for her as a full-timer and what she meant to Stardom. But you never know. Maybe she'll be in Marigold next month. I don't think that'll happen. But,
no.
You never know. Like, you never know what she's going to do next and how she takes to retirement. And she might be like, man, like, this sucks. Like, I miss being in front of the crowd and having all my fans love me so much. Like, I miss having these matches and this passion that I've dedicated to. Who's to say? We'll never know. Only that woman knows in her mind. And we'll see. But regardless, it's hard to imagine a better ending to your full-time career than this. I would say, to be honest. Like, she really went out in style. And I kind of hope that it lasts for that reason. Because I think it was about perfect how they did it. But still, it's one of those wait-and-see things. But as I said, I say that about pretty much every wrestler who leaves us or retires for some reason. I pretty much always think that they're going to come back eventually. And I'm usually right, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. This is not the end of the Tama Road. Definitely not.
But yeah, amazing show.
Amazing show.
One of the best of the year. Where would you rank it?
It's. Let me see. When I look at my spreadsheet, there are a few shows that I've rated higher than that. I mean, for the spectacle of it all, I also would rate this show a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, to me, a spectacle, it's like I don't think there's been a better show from that perspective, actually. Like this year, in terms of
absolutely not, and for a long time. Not only this year.
Pretty much since the Muto show, like there's not been a show with this feeling to it.
Yeah,
even compared to the first one, the Julia and Tom show had this a little bit, but I think this was a better overall show, like in terms of match quality.
Yeah, there's currently no show that I've had rated higher this year than this one.
Yeah, I think the pomp and I don't know what, who knows what kind of what goes into these ratings, but if you're comparing it like a match quality, I don't think there'll be as much depth as this show on any show going forward.
Right.
And in terms of pomp and circumstance, it's hard to imagine. On top of it, look at their champions. Kamitani, Starlight Kid, Wing Gory, Shuri. Hina is the future champion. But the artist champions, the Neo Genesis team, they've set up their future so strongly coming out of this. Like, in addition to it being a great show on its own, Suzu Suzuki with a new faction heating up. Like, one of her hottest runs, it looks like she's going to really unleash her potential, it looks like. Sendai Girls working together. Who knows what they do with FCC? They've got so many potential storyline options going forward that you just see why this is, like, to me, it's pretty clear this is the best company in Japan going right now.
Exactly.
Like,
and you brought up the Muto show, and back then, we exactly knew what was going to happen to Pro Wrestling Noah. We knew that they would never, ever come back to this level of success because they just didn't have the talent. But Stardom, they do, like you just pointed out, with only the champions that you mentioned. They definitely have the potential to come from this and to deliver a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road that they can build back to a show to a similar degree.
As I said, in those 2 or 3 years, who's to say the big match won't be Tom Nakano's return match, and they could get another big house out of this feud. But yeah, the sky's the limit. Like, their biggest show of their history by a huge margin. Not even the Use Upon days could touch it. So.
Nope.
Great.
Yes, and that brings us to Sendai Girls Pro Wrestling. They also had the biggest show of their existence. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about that in Yoyogi number 2 with the official number of over 3,500 people. And now it came down to Meiko Satomura's retirement show in Korakuen Hall. Sold out crowd, 1,660 fans officially. Wrestle Universe began showing the hallway of Korakuen Hall, and it was so jam-packed like I've never seen it before. It's in a long time, I want to say. I've seen it before, jam-packed, but not in a long time, since the pandemic. And The crowd was incredibly into everything on this show, and they were given an emotional retirement like it's supposed to be, with Meiko Satomura getting into a team with one of her trainees of Manami in Sendai Girls, teaming against the big ace of the company, Shihiro Hashimoto and Aja Kong, like I've just pointed out, the senior of Meiko Satomura back in the day in 1999. It was as perfect of a match that you can book on paper, and in my opinion, it delivered so incredibly well not only on paper, but also just like the execution of it was so tremendous. Everything worked out like they planned it did, except for the Scorpion Rising. She slipped once, but she came back with that. Shihiro Hashimoto couldn't put Meiko Satomura away, and we had this moment where Aja Kong just shouted at her, "Tag me, tag me, tag me." And she was getting her garbage can, wanted to use that one more time on Meiko. The referee wouldn't allow her, but she in the end did. There were so many great moments in this match, and even Manami, she came out first, and the crowd was completely behind her. She was in such a great spot here with these three great, with two legends and one of the greatest of this generation. So Meiko always kicking out in this match out of everything that Hashimoto threw at her was just incredible, and I wouldn't have expected that, to be quite honest, but it had to end. In the end, it had to end with Satomura once again overcoming Aja Kong. In the Scorpion Rising, I mean, she kicked her right on the head. That looked so brutal. So brutal. And we had this almost perfect finish for Meiko Satomura here.
Yeah. I think the show itself, obviously, like, you can't compare it to the Stardom show in terms of depth, but on the other hand, this show had Sakura Hirota on it, so like it kind of wins in that way.
Shin Meiko Satomura, I think you mean.
The last time she'll ever be able to do this, so there is that factor. Really, this was a lighthearted show, like really up and down, like down to even the end. Like really, the last match was kind of lighthearted, ultimately, but. The big match you're going to care about is the match you're speaking of. Meiko and Manami versus Aja and Sihash. Really interesting that Manami was the choice here, like, to be her partner. It's no problem with it. I've been a fan of Manami for a long time now. Don't get me wrong. But obviously you see somebody with so much history she had with Dash, or like an Iwata who was in that main eventer spot more than Manami, but or Yuna, who's younger than Manami and is a true rookie and could fulfill that role. Instead, she kind of went with Manami, the outside the box pick, which again, I appreciate the wrestler herself. It's just not what I would have expected. That said, any one of those names, this match would have been great for, regardless, just because of the match structure of it. I think that, the rivalry between Kong and Meiko is extremely meaningful if you follow the Dark Ages of Joshi, that 2000 period.
Pointed out numerous times in commentary as well.
And it, like, they were the ones that really carried things on their back. Meiko had a lot more gas in the tank than Kong did, obviously, to get through that. But their matches together meant so much to a ton of fans. Even people I knew of that were just watching at the time, years later, like, that's something everybody would point to. Because a lot of times the Joshi scene didn't have good respect towards it at the time. But those two would always be talked about as on the level of men's wrestling among English-speaking fans at the time. And I think at the end, this match, they gave enough shine to Manami at the start where, it was a very traditional, they bullied her and beat the crap out of her. She got to show some fire. And then we got to the real main event, which was Meiko squaring off with the other two for one more time. And it was, like, really good. at the end of the day. You had some comedic spots in here. Again, this wasn't like to me, the other one, with Tom and Tulsiah, it was this emotional, melodramatic spectacle. And that's one way to handle these kind of matches. This way was more along the lines, the match structure was different, obviously, but this was more along the lines of Toyota's retirement battle royal, where you got flashes of who she used to be, and then also some of her old friends just having fun for one more go around with her here. And obviously Kong, there was a spot where she begged the referee to use the can.
Yeah.
And then she got to use it. She's like, come on, this is my last chance. Let me use it. And he was like, well, okay. But it was really built well. The wrestling was strong. Not anywhere near their peak or anything like that in terms of a match quality. But it was a ton of fun to watch and very emotional. The end result of everybody coming out and them just hey, let's team up one more time, like Meiko and Aja. That was cool. You put over a lot of the younger talent. You got Senka, you got Yuna, you even got Meiko Satomura, as you said.
She did run in.
There. Yeah, so everybody got to interact with Meiko one more time on that end. It was just a fun little match and a great way to cap off this amazing career. As I said, she was gone already, so I really wasn't that emotional over it because she's been gone for a long time now in my heart. But it was still cool to see this last run. She got to have a chance to wrestle all of some of the greats that we have now. She even got to win the belt and put over Seahash one more time.
Yeah.
So it's hard to argue what she could have done in her career at this point overall, but pretty interesting that she went out on top. Did not do the job or lay down for anyone here in typical Sendai Girls fashion, I would say.
That's what they do. Yes, Meiko Satomura, it's no secret that she has been so vital to my fandom in the last 7 years, I would say, 7 to 8 years. Before the pandemic, she was so vital for the UK scene. She was the champion for Fight Club Pro back then. And before that, in Japan, she had the run as the KOD Openweight champion. That was one of my favorite times in DDT when Meiko Satomura just would come in and wrestle all these guys. And of course, in the UK, I was at the Sendai Girls UK show that happened on July 27, 2019 in Manchester. That was one of my favorite live shows that I've ever seen in my life. We had an incredible no DQ match between Dash Shisaku and Kaylee Ray. Chris Brooks was on the show wrestling Valkyrie. Medusa Complex, Charlie Evans and Millie McKenzie defended the Sendai Girls tag title against Hiro Hashimoto and Yu on that show. And in the main event, great singles match, Toni Storm defeated Meiko Satomura. That was an incredible show. I loved it so much. And the feeling of that show, the crowd was so into everything. It felt like, to me, it was the best crowd I've ever seen in a pro wrestling show, not in the sense that they made the show stand out throughout them cheering or booing and stuff like that, but it felt like a show where everybody just had a great time. That was how it felt. And of course, she then went to WWE, which I thought was very unfortunate because especially during that time in 2019, 2020, she was, I think, one of the best, if not the best wrestler in the world. I did not follow her road into WWE, obviously, but I was so glad to see her back in Sendai Girls and become champion one more time. Like I said, putting over Siash once more. I thought it was a good way to go out for her. You could see that she wasn't the Meiko Satomura anymore that she was in 2019, so it was about time for her to go. And unlike Tam Nakano, I don't think that we'll see Meiko Satomura back, to be honest.
No, I mean, maybe she could do some commentary here and there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we will see her around, of course. That's what she said, but I don't think she'll wrestle again.
Yeah, with her, it's like one of those things where, if it didn't happen, like nobody would be surprised by that. If she didn't wrestle again.
Yeah.
I mean, she's got nothing left to prove. To be honest, like I said, she's a legend for sure. Like I said, she really carried things a lot of times in the Gaia days. She built her own company from the start. I remember the really small beginnings of Sendai Girls, like back when I first started jumping in. Bring back Tyrannosaurus Okuda. Like I said, where was she on this show? Is that's what I want to see. But we didn't get that, unfortunately. But still, Okuda was a very talented wrestler too, for the record. But she kind of flamed out when they had the name changed to Basara. But Meiko's great. Like I really can't praise her enough. There's a ton of great matches, that you could find online. Even though it was the dark days in terms of popularity, she did a lot of great things. Her Stardom run was amazing. That's why you got all of this, Io and Kairi and all of them.
Exactly, yes.
Phoning in. Her match versus Kairi in Stardom is one of my favorite matches that either woman ever had. The draw they had, that was from 2015. And that at a pivotal time too, because that was coming right off the Yoshiko incident. And Kairi was the underdog champion, and that really established her as a real star for the company. Obviously, she did a lot of stuff with Kana before, as well. Like all the legends, she rubbed shoulders with everybody. And like I said, no doubt her career deserves a ton of respect. Starting so young, she was on Nitro, like WCW.
Yes, yeah, right. And not on the late Nitros.
No, the beginning of Naito, 95.
96, I think it's something like that, yes.
No, she was only 17, 16, 17, when that happened. And WCW did try to do stuff like that.
Yeah, 96 and 97.
Yeah, see, so she had a little bit of a run there, 96, 97. None of the matches are really anything to write home about at all. It's WCW overall, but just the fact that she got that moment was very cool at the end of the day. So, and a legendary player in terms of training for sure. I know she's on the ballot for the Observer Hall of Fame. We've discussed her pretty intact in the past, me and Gerard DeTrolio, who is a voter on that. I'm pretty sure I mean, she was kind of on that line to me, based on their standards, but I think now with her true retirement show coming up, I think people are going to look into her a little bit more, and maybe people will appreciate her career that much more. Again, I think training is really where her bread and butter is made as a legend. But her match quality is extremely high as well. To me, she would be definitely considered one of the top 100 wrestlers, in the history of wrestling. In terms of a purely in-ring standard, there's a lot of amazing wrestlers that you can name, but I think she deserves to be in that discussion. Like I said, the end of her career is not anything I'll remember very fondly with the Brit Res stuff, but she was missed while she was gone, and she'll be missed again. Now that she's gone for good. The only hope I can have is that she has a wonderful life and has much happiness, and it is very deserved after all she gave to the wrestling business.
I'm looking forward to all the pharma content that we're going to get on the Sendai Girls account. And
I think we all want to see that. We
Absolutely.
Want to see her on a big tractor.
In a very big one, yes.
And comically oversized tractor, yes. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
It has to be red and comically oversized.
Yes. Put her in a cowboy hat while she does it. I want Farmer Meiko.
Yes, maybe the other ones can help too. Dashi Sako, Mika Iwata, maybe they can join in. This card,
something like that when Cassandra Miyagi was there.
I still have that image saved on my phone. That was amazing.
There you go. See, he remembers.
Yep. So you said this show, lighthearted one, of course. The actual semi-main of the show, the six-man tag, Dashisako, Mika Iwata, and Sari against Lena Cross, Nina Samuels, and Venny, was a good one. The international team really did well. I'm high on Lena Cross. Nina Samuels performed well as well here on this show. In the end, Dashisako once again got the big win here. It was good. And the Battle Royal, Dylan. I don't know if I have ever seen a better Battle Royal in Japanese Pro Wrestling, to be quite honest. Because, I mean, it was so fun with all the legends coming in, especially with Shinobu Kandori, who could do nothing and was covered while doing a cross arm breaker. But it built to Minoru Suzuki coming in and to being the threat to all the women in this Battle Royal, and it kept building to the point that Ryo Mizunami eventually was able to eliminate Suzuki. I love that match.
I think there's no wrestler I hate watching more than Minoru Suzuki at this point. Like anytime he comes,
totally understand.
Yeah, anytime he comes into a match, it immediately makes me want to turn the show off. Like he's the worst wrestler in the world, in my opinion. And I did have legitimately one of the worst matches I've ever seen versus Butterbean as well on WrestleMania.
Legendary stuff.
It was definitely legendary. It was like here. I'll quote my Wrestle Update co-host by saying it was Heroes of Wrestling bad. But yeah, I hated all that stuff. I love the 6-man woman tag was very good. Like I said, everybody did good. I definitely like Lena Cross as well. I think she has a wonderful future in this business. I don't know what her goals are ultimately. She was actually in the clusterfuck. Janela.
Yeah, she's now based in America, so I guess more GCW stuff.
Had to drop the Spark title to Hazuki, though, first on there. That's too bad. I would have liked to have seen that match, her versus Hazuki. I don't know where to even watch that.
I have no idea, actually.
Yeah, but big shout out to Lena Cross. I think she's got a ton of a great future ahead of her, like I said. All the others are, Sari, Iwata, Dash, great. Nina Samuels, somebody I definitely run pretty hot and cold on, but like you said, looked pretty good in the match.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. For this match, she stepped up. Vinny stepped up as well. Everybody was good. That was a heck of a match. The Sakura Hirota comedy was more up my alley than the Minoru Suzuki, I guess.
It had a great moment with Jinsei Shinsaki chasing Sakura Hirota on the ropes during the rope walk.
How could you not love that?
Mayumi Ozaki just shouting to the crowd, "That's not her!"
Well, and finally someone brave enough to tell the truth. Do you think Jaguar was convinced?
Shadow fighting.
Yes, the whole match was fun. Like I said, I enjoy that. I disagree with the cage match people.
I disagree. Yeah.
Swap that the Battle Royal rating, and I'll be happy.
The opener I thought was pretty good. I also disagree with the cage match rating here. I liked it. I like Yuna. I like Yurika Oka. I like Zenka Akatsuki, of course. The match with Aja Kong has to be shouted out here during WrestleMania week. 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the best match of WrestleMania week. It was a 5-minute match with a rookie and Aja Kong.
Had the best crowd reactions.
It was just the best match in every way. I would say of that terrible weekend they had there. But she is anything but terrible.
Right. I also she's going to be great star. And I also like Yurazuki. I think they all are very talented and they delivered a good match here. I did like that.
I was really wondering, I was really wishing that we could get Sora from Marvelous on there because they've had some great matches together. Her and Sanka.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she would have been a great person to come in here with Yurika Oka, but I liked it though. Like I said, Yuna, we both think the world of. I love Yurika Oka. I think she's one of the best. Greatly improved. And Akatsuki is going to be like something really special when it's all said and done. Suzuki's good too. Again, she's not somebody I really think of right away, but she's had a good run in Sendai for a little while now. She's been there for a while now.
The company is the perfect fit for her.
Yeah, and she's very much like a, shooter type of person, like kick person, which is always an archetype of wrestler that I like a lot.
Absolutely. Trained by Tetsuya Naito, Dylan.
Well, there you go. Right, always a favorite of this show, Tetsuya Naito.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. Cool stuff. Yeah, it was a good match.
Yeah, good show too. I mean,
yeah, it was fun. Like this won't compete for show of the year like the other. It's a shame it's got to be compared, kind of so close.
Yeah.
But if you judge it on its own, retirement show for Meiko, it was good stuff. Like you gotta like what they put down here, and it deserved the big attendance at Korakuen as well. And the crowd, like you said, you were totally right. The crowd was into all of this, so I think that shows that everybody was here to have a good time, and I think they succeeded.
They surely did, and I think we succeeded as well in reviewing these two shows, these two landmark shows in different aspects, different ways, pointing to different directions for either company. Both Stardom and Sendai Girls will be interesting to follow them around, where they end up putting their eggs into which basket. We'll see. We'll see about that, Dylan.
Something tells me C-Hush is going to be that champion for a while now.
How do you make that conclusion?
It's just a hunch I have. Like, there's no explanation behind it.
No evidence?
Well, if you do some digging, you have to dig deep. But I think you'll see some patterns come up that show that I think I might be onto something.
I'll do that digging. I'll get back to you eventually.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
Okay. And I appreciated you, Dylan, coming here onto this show. Was a great time for me. And when I pull the curtain back a bit, I didn't have the time to watch a lot of wrestling this week. There was so much stuff that I had to take care of and that I wanted to take care of too. And I got some more on the weekend. So this was really the only day we could do the show. So I'm glad Dylan was up for it. We couldn't talk about lots of men's wrestling because I just hadn't seen lots of New Japan and All Japan and others. I have to catch up next week somehow. I'll do it, Dylan. I promise, and we'll get back with the men's wrestling as well.
Who do you think will advance to the finals of the Champion Carnival?
It's gonna be Zion.
He's eliminated.
And Takashi Yoshida.
He doesn't even have any points. You've watched all the shows. Strigga, don't try and lie to the fans right now. Just are bored by them.
Like I said before, Rei Sato and Hideki Suzuki.
Yeah, like I said, it's kind of worked out how we said it when we previewed it. Like, one A block show left. Davey, Kento, Hideki, and June all tied at 10. Guess who wrestles each other? So whoever wins those two matches will advance. And then in B block, it's a little bit more open-ended, but they told a story of Ray losing. That is like super quick Carnival coverage right now. Ray lost a bunch of his opening matches. Now he has a bunch in the back end. He's going to win and probably advance. And we'll see. It'll probably be one of Honda or Kakuta that advances, but maybe they could sneak Aoyagi or Anzai in there as well. Or maybe even Mike D.
Even Mike D. Shocking turn of events with Rei Saito coming back from behind.
No one could have predicted this on there. I did say they should try to make it a little bit more interesting because it feels like he was such an obvious choice to win. But I don't know if they did that. But yeah, we'll talk more about that in the future on there. Check out the Patreon. I'll cover the Noah show coming up too. Kenta versus Ozawa. You've got Kaito versus Marufuji on there, like Kaito's return singles match. They're trying to restart him a little bit. And I mean, it's a 25th anniversary show for a company that really meant a lot to me when I first started overall. So I don't want to go through a whole preview, but I will cover it on the Patreon. And like I said, it's emotional for me to see this stuff. Even if the card isn't what I would want, I'm excited to see Akiyama come in to team with Sugiura against Endo and Owada. So, I think they've got some good stuff going. The Kenta thing has the potential to be something great. Fun fact, Strigga. Kenta's he has only been the champion one time in Noah, the GHC heavyweight champion before.
Wow.
He won it on my birthday in 2013.
Of course he did.
January 27th, 2013, defeating Takeshi Morishima back in the Chokibogun days back then. So, like, he's only won it one time before. It's not my birthday this time, but we are heading into Golden Week, and I have high expectations. So I can't wait to talk about it. Join me on the Patreon if you want to talk about it with me, and I'll try and catch up on Carnival. I fell behind for a little bit there. And like I said, a lot of the shows don't have that much to say about them, but I will catch up. We'll be in a good spot. I covered the Stardom show live when it happened. I'll cover this Noah show as well, so should be a fun time. Most importantly, follow us on Spotify, Cagematch.net. You get all the links there, our link trees on our Twitter at Eastern Lariat as well. YouTube at Eastern Lariat. Tons of fun to be had there. Please comment. I love talking to all of you guys. You all mean so much to me. So please keep talking. Let's have some fun. We got Dragon Gate Dead or Alive coming up.
Oh, yeah,
Cage.
baby.
Carnival Finals coming up. Dontaku coming up. Man, this Golden Week is going to be crazy. We'll get back at some point soon to talk about whatever we can when we get to it. But a lot going on. Pivotal moment in Japanese wrestling. Naito leaving New Japan. How will things change? Big shows coming. Retirements. A whole extravaganza. Hopefully everybody has fun, and hopefully everybody out there is safe and healthy. And most importantly, you know I love you.
You know I love you. This has been the Eastern Lariat. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye.
Sayonara.